Hey again, and welcome to a new video. So today I want to continue the Loadout Talk series, which I stopped when I played on PDS, just because the last weeks I did content for PDS or whatever. And I don't know, I just stopped it. So now I want to continue. And I want to make clear in the beginning again that I don't say that's the best loadout and everyone should play it. Those are the loadouts I play, which fit my playstyle the best. So it's the loadouts I've created for myself, and maybe you get a different view on things or whatever, and maybe you change your loadout afterwards, or you don't. So it doesn't really matter. I just want to show what my playstyle is or what my loadouts are, and tell me in the comments what your playstyle is or what your legendaries are, if you have a similar one or a different one. And yeah, for the ones being only interested in one specific champion, I will link the timestamps in the description. And as for the other parts as well, again, I try to do it in one card and don't do any cards just for the same reasons. So in the last video or the last Loadout Talk, I stopped with Kinesa, I think. So today we're starting with Drogoz, and if you want to decide the legendary or whatever for Drogoz, I kind of feel like it's similar to Buck. It's kind of situational. So for Drogoz, or for my Drogoz legendary pick, it really depends on the map you're playing on and the comp you're playing against. So on some maps you definitely want to go combustible because it's so easy to spam around corners and get value out of your fire spit, so to say, like ice mines or Frogger. You want or can go combustible for sure. And on other maps it's just better, or against other comps it's better to go a different legendary, just because it's easier to make work or just easier to counter the enemy team or whatever. So for example, if you play against a blaster comp like Eevee and BK, so usually you never want to pick two blasters, just because your DPS get countered by the same item, and yeah, it's just harder to deal with flying enemies like Drogoz or whatever. So you want to try to have at least one blaster, one direct damage, so to say, one hit scan. So, but if you play against Eevee or BK or whatever, then you can go worm jets for sure, because it's so hard for them to actually hit you in the air and you almost can free fire. But against two hit skins or whatever, it's harder to play worm jets because they can focus you or target you so easily in the air. So pick a different legendary or whatever. So for me, it's just situational what legendary I want to play. Drogoz, in my opinion, is a strong pick. I mean, he also has it kind of easy to deal with at least some counters. So, for example, if you play against Androxus or some characters who might rush you or have it easy to deal damage to you or push you or whatever, just play Fusilade, because Fusilade is one of the best legendaries to actually counter them. You can two-shot an Androxus if you play Fusilade, so even though he should be the counter to you, or many comps play or pick Androxus to counter you, just pick Fusilade, and if you're good enough on Drogoz and improve your air shots or whatever, then it's kind of easy for you to actually not win every 1v1, but make yourself hard to kill for the Androxus, or even kill the Androxus. So that's why, okay, the first legendary I talk about is Fusilade, just because you have a lot of counters, and yeah, it's just the easiest one to make work, I think, just because your damage potential or damage output is so huge if you're good at hitting your direct shots, and it's not that hard to hit your rockets on Drogoz. I mean, on targets on the ground, it's not that hard. In the air, it's a little bit harder, so you should improve or try to work on your aim in the air against Androxus or whatever. But yeah, let's just start with the loadout. So because you want to hit your direct shots, because you extra damage if you hit direct shots, then just use Hot Swap. I feel like it's a pretty strong card, so you get free Deft Hands without actually buying Deft Hands. Usually Deft Hands is not a pick you want to go just because other items are way more important, or the cards are not good enough to actually justify to use those cards. But 40% reload speed for 3 seconds is actually good, so 10% for each point you put into your loadout is really good. And just because you want to hit your direct shots and you just want to decrease your reload time, because your reload time in general is kind of long, so just make it easier for you to hit your shots and then make it easier to reload to deal damage earlier again, because your reload time is reduced. Then the next cards you have most cards for Drogoz, or some cards you kind of want to use in every loadout just because you also want to play around his booster or his jetpack, because this is what is really strong about him. He can fly. He's actually a mobile character with flying around and stuff. So you want to improve your air control or whatever. So that's why I like to increase my forward distance of thrust or of my movement ability by 100%. So usually would just go upwards, but I kind of want to get a movement forward as well. So that's why I like to increase the forward distance by 100%, just to have it easier to close distances without only going upwards. So with this card you go upwards and forward at once. So that's why I like it to, just to make it easier for you to get forward or whatever. Then the next card is kind of a filler card, so restore 20% of your maximum booster fuel after getting a kill or in a limb. So it doesn't matter if you get a kill or a limb, which is really good if you have cards which don't need to get a kill or whatever. Those are probably good cards just because you will get a lot of limbs, so it's more likely that you get the limbs than kills. So if they reduce your consumption of your booster, or if they refill your booster, it's good in my opinion, just because it's easier for you to stay in the air, and it's just a filler card, but it restores 20%. So with 1 point you can invest 20% or get 20% booster back, which is pretty good in my opinion. Then in general you want to increase your booster fuel just to make it, or the capacity, just to make it easier to stay in the air. Just for me, in general it's easier to hit your shots if you're above the enemy, if you in some way have the high ground, because you can fly, and if you shoot from top downwards to them, down to the enemy, it's always easier to hit those shots. And you want to stay in the air, so you want to use what's strong about Drogoz in a simple way. So that's why you want to have more capacity of your booster to make it easier for you to stay in the air and have the advantage over the enemy. And the last card, reduce your cooldown of your thrust by 30% when you get a killing blow. So that's kind of an aggressive card, so you can go in, use your thrust, get a killing blow, and get the cooldown reduction of 30%. That's also good cooldown reduction in my opinion. So only 2 points, but 30% of cooldown reduction. Just make it easier for you to be mobile, stay mobile, because with Fusey you get a lot of kills just because you can 2-tap most of the enemies. So most squishies are getting 2-tapped by you if you play Fusey. But in the end, it doesn't matter if you play Fusey or not. The card in general, in my opinion, is a good card just because he does so much damage at once. Even though if you don't play Fusey, you still or your rockets deal a lot of damage. So it's pretty likely for you to get kills. And just reduce the cooldown of your thrust. So the next legendary is combustible. As I said before, you probably want to play them on more closer maps where it's better for you to spam around corners, or just to don't show yourself, or because the enemy team has a lot of options to hide or whatever, just pressure them. So use your speed to deal damage over time. And again, as I said before, I like to get the forward distance of my thrust, so that's why I think I use it in every Drogoz loadout at 100%, maybe on one a little bit more, like on Wormjets, we will see. And again, a little bit of cooldown reduction of my thrust. But the important cards are like reduce the cooldown of your fire spit for each enemy, so by 2.5 seconds for each enemy you hit by it. Just because you want to hit a lot of enemies, or in the end it doesn't matter how many enemies you really hit. You also get 2.5 seconds cooldown reduction for one enemy, and sometimes you only want to use your fire spit for one enemy, but if you hit a lot of enemies at once, you get a lot of cooldown reduction, which is pretty good. So that's why you want to play around your fire spit, because that's the legendary you picked. So reduce the cooldown of your fire spit to bring it on more often. This card has an initial cooldown of 5 seconds, but usually it doesn't matter how long the 5 seconds, or the 5 seconds don't matter, just because yeah, you will have a lot of fire spits anyway. So this initial cooldown is just there to make sure you don't have fire spits the whole time, but in the end you will have fire spits the whole time. So yeah, then again, increase your booster fuel capacity by 10%, this time just 10%, because I decided to put more points into other cards and play more around my thrust. That's why I just want to get the forward movement more than staying in the air, just because for combustible, in my opinion, it's easier to don't be in the air, or it's harder for you to stay in the air, because if you, or I see many Drogoz player who try to stay on the same spot to make sure they hit their combustible, and it's harder to do it when you stay in the air. And just because if you don't play Wormjets, it's hard to stay that long in the air to actually hit a long fire spit or whatever. And I like to get out the fire spit on the ground, so I make sure I can get back on the same spot again to hit the fire spit. Like put out your fire spit, but don't stay where you were. Just move around to make it harder for the enemy to hit you, because I see so many Drogoz players staying on the same spot and just waiting for this fire spit to be in the perfect spot. But that's not what you want to do, because it's so easy then to hit you. So get out your fire spit, then move around a little bit, and when you see the fire spit is at the spot you want it to be, then walk back to the spot, because it's easier when you started on the ground. Just because you can easier get to the point where you want to be, if it makes sense, just because it's on the ground and not in the air, and then shoot your fire spit. And yeah, just a little bit of heal for each enemy you hit by your fire, or you hit with your fire spit, just because you hit a lot of enemies often, or you want to use your fire spit often to actually deal more damage or get the damage over time. So that's for combustible. The next one is for Wormjets, and I don't often play Wormjets, I have to say. So this is probably not the best loadout. So no loadout is the best loadout to use, but I don't really play Wormjets that often. So this is, in my opinion, I could try it more often or whatever to make it work better for me. So I'm sure there are definitely better cards to use or loadouts to use. So again, increase the forward distance of thrust, increase your booster capacity to make it easier to stay, in general, I say in the air, more mobile. Reduce the cooldown of your thrust to make it easier to actually stay in the air, because you get a little bit of upward distance, so to say, when you use your thrust. So stay in the air more often or longer. And restore 60% of your maximum booster fuel after getting a kill or a limb, just because here this card is pretty good as for the first loadout as well. You get 60% back of your booster when you get a limb, so it doesn't matter if it's a kill or a limb, just because it's written here like getting a kill or a limb. Make it easier for you to stay in the air, because with Wormjet, as I said before, you want to stay in the air when the enemy team don't really have a hit skin to pressure you, or if you're comfortable enough or whatever. So make it easier, build your loadout around your booster, around your jetpack to just make it easier for you to stay in the air. And the last card, a little bit of HP increase because you want to stay in the air and you still want to make it harder to actually kill you. So that's it for Drogoz. The next champion is Tyra, and currently my main legendary for Tyra is Merciful, just because it's so good. It's kind of broken, just because it's easier if you show the loadout. So you want to get the damage reduction after hitting your nade, or no, that's not true. You don't even have to hit your nade, just getting your nade out. So get 20% damage reduction for 3 seconds after using your nade launcher. And here your damage reduction actually stacks up. So you're so tanky, even if it wouldn't stack up, if it only would be 20%, then 20% free damage reduction for using an ability is still a lot of damage reduction. So Tyra is in general pretty tanky. She has the most HP of all DPS or of all squishies in the game, so to say. Just because she doesn't have a real movement ability or whatever, and she just needs the tankiness to stay alive or whatever. And you are even more tanky with this legendary and loadout card. So get damage reduction after using your nade, and you have 3 nades. So there is little delay between. You need some time to actually get out all nades, so you probably won't get 60% of the damage reduction just because it's not possible to get all 3 nades out within 3 seconds. But you will, it stacks up to some point, maybe not the whole damage reduction. There probably is some diminishing returns, but you still have a stack damage reduction, and it's really good. You can play aggressive, you can use a lot of nades, and because your nades are so strong in general, you do a lot of damage, you have a lot of nades, you have a lot of damage reduction, you want to reduce all your cooldowns after getting a limb to make sure you have more nades out, you get more nades after getting kills or limbs, so you can go aggressive, go in, use your nades on the squishies to kill them, or even on the tanks. You're also good at killing tanks because it's easy on her to deal headshots. You do, I think in general you do a lot of damage on Tyra. A lot of, or for a long time she was kind of underrated in my opinion. So she was pretty strong and no one really saw it or no one really played it just because of the lack of movement abilities. And I don't know, a player didn't really see it, but in my opinion her damage output was really strong before and still is, so they didn't really change her damage output, it's still the same, and her general raw auto rifle damage output is already pretty strong. And yeah, just go in, use your nades, kill someone or get the limb, get 50% cooldown reduction after getting a limb, have another nade up and another one, and I think you understand what I mean, what I'm talking about. Then increase your maximum HP to be more tanky. So this is a real this is a real tank build, so to say. You just want to increase all your tankiness, give yourself damage reduction, give yourself more general HP, and the last 2 cards a little bit of filler cards. So increase your maximum ammo just because, I don't know, why not, and reduce the cooldown of nade launcher just because if it's the legendary you also could maybe use, like, I know there's another card you could use for your nade. Heal yourself for 60 for each enemy you hit with your nade launcher, probably doing this. And yeah, that's just for Merciful, in my opinion, currently the best legendary on Tyra. Then another legendary which used to be pretty strong because you gained extra damage increase, so to say, for your marked enemies and for your team. So I'm talking about Hunting Party, where your mark benefits allies as well. So usually your mark only is for yourself. You mark all enemies you marked for the whole team, so to say, for your whole team. So it doesn't matter which legendary you play in Terra, you mark everyone. Or the marked allies are visible to everyone of your team, but the damage benefits are only for yourself. So you gain 15% more damage to your marked enemies, but if you play Hunting Party, all your teammates also get or receive the benefits, so the 15% extra damage to the marked enemies. That's what this legendary is about. And it used to be 25%, so pretty good. But it was too strong, and it's just annoying to play against, or it was annoying to play against because you can't really counter it, so the mark is not affected by resilience, so you are marked over the whole duration, you can't really do it. It's so broken if the whole team has a wall hack, so to say, because it's kind of a wall hack if you're marked. The whole enemy team just sees you and you can't do what you want to do because everyone knows where you're about to go or what you want to do. So pretty annoying. The ability in general would be annoying, but you also increase the damage. So still annoying, and I mean it kind of fell out of the meta just because it's not 25% extra damage anymore, but in my opinion still an okay legendary. So this is more situational where you want to pick it more against, yeah, like invisible champions, Strix, Sky, whatever, just because you can reveal them even though they are invisible. And this legendary, in my opinion, works better in a competitive game just because your teammates need to focus the marked allies. And yeah, just if you play casuals or whatever, then you don't gain any benefits of this legendary for yourself. You pick this legendary because you want to benefit your team. So this is a good legendary in competitive play, but not in casuals, in my opinion, just because you have no advantage and many people don't really understand how strong this legendary is or could be. And the only thing you have to pay attention to is who you want to mark. So usually you don't want to mark champions who can counter your mark with certain abilities like Koga Dash, Dumber Slither. Just I think you understand what I mean. So some champions can cancel your mark early with certain abilities, so usually you don't want to mark them. You want to mark different champions, but you will figure it out in the end. And let's finally start with this legendary, with this loadout. I feel like today I talk a lot about legendaries in general. I'm sorry. So you obviously want to reduce the cooldown of your hunter's mark just because you wanted to use as much as possible. Then you also want to increase the duration of hunter's mark just because it's so annoying to play against. As I said, you can't really counter it, and it's not affected by resilience or whatever. So just increase the duration, make it easier, or make it more annoying for the enemy team, make it easier for your team to follow up kills because they are marked for longer, make it easier for you to see what the enemy wants to do, just because you have the wall hacks for longer duration. Then you also want to, right now talking about Primal Might, you also want to reduce your active cooldowns by 40% after getting a limb, just because for the same reasons as for your nades. You just want to make sure you have a nade, or not a nade here, not a nade, but in Mercy Kill Lauder you want to have a nade up, here you want to have the Hunter's Mark up. So you just want to make sure that you get a kill, spam out or get out the next mark and just keep rolling, so to say. And the last two cards, kind of filler cards, just increase your movement speed by 5% by using Hunter's Mark or by it's active, and increase your maximum HP to be a little bit more tanky. And the last legendary for Tyra is Burn Monster, and well, I mean, Burn Monster could work, in my opinion, it works in lower ranks. So it's no problem that it works there, but I think in a higher competitive play, it doesn't really work just because you only need to figure out that you have to walk out of the fire. So you need to learn, or what players learned in more competitive play or in higher ranks, they know when to get off the point, and when they know they are at a certain HP, they walk off the point. Many people in lower ranks just stay on the point when they are tank or whatever because they think they have to stay on the point the whole time, but that's not true. You just have to figure out when you have to walk off or get off the point, and you just have to figure out that the fire deals a lot of damage if you stay in it. Yes, it's annoying if you're in it and you can't use movement abilities, but you have to walk out, and it gets countered if enemies don't stay in it. Like, it's so easy to counter it just because the enemy just has to walk out of it, and you don't deal any damage. So sometimes it's good at shredding tanks, like high HP tanks, ROM or whatever, when you throw it on him and he can't run out because, I don't know, he's kind of slow and he doesn't stop shooting, then okay, it's good at countering him. It's also good at countering movement abilities. Like if you see a Ashe wants to dash, or Rom wants to use his Juggernaut, then throw the nade, cripple them. Okay, then it's good. But I think the other legendaries in Tyra are just better to play. But anyway, you obviously want to reduce the cooldown of your firebomb to get more firebombs out. Again, reduce your active cooldowns by 40%. So this card, see, it's actually so strong. You want to use it in every loadout, just because, yeah, it benefits all your abilities. So it's not for a certain ability, like only your nade launcher or whatever. It's for every ability you have. And I don't know, it's so strong, it fits into every loadout and into every legendary you play. Then filler card, increase your maximum HP, but a little bit of heal. I mean, you also could swap this one up, take out some heal, put more movement speed into it. So it really depends what you like to do. So maybe I just tried this one now out, so I played it. When I played it, I don't really play it often, but sometimes I just play it because they have, I don't know, sometimes you play against 5 tanks or whatever, then you just want to test this out, how good this really feels, or because it's so strong to shredding tanks. Then I played it. I had a lot of heal, but now, I don't know, sometimes you just want to, change your loadout. So now I think I would decrease the heal, put more movement speed in it, be more mobile, and yeah, that's it for Tyra. So next champion is Imani, and for Imani, I feel like most cards she has, most loader cards she has, don't really benefit as a specific legendary. Like I think you want to build your loadout in general, and you can play it on almost every, not on almost, on in my opinion, on every legendary, because the cards are strong in general, or you want to use them in general, in my opinion. So for money, I only have one loadout, and I would use it for every legendary. So I don't play Imani really often, and it's actually been a year or whatever since I've played Imani. So I haven't tested out her changes. So I just know that they increased the fire rate of her frost thingies, but I haven't actually tested out. So I don't know. I don't like Imani. I mean, she's a strong champion, but I just don't like the playstyle of Imani, and I don't have fun playing her. But anyway, this is a loadout, so increase your maximum HP to be more tanky and make it possible to tank a Genos or whatever when you're ulting. Then you want to increase, or I want to increase my movement speed by using my Inferno Cannon, because you also can use it kind of a movement ability. Just get in the air, use your beam, and then you can decide where you want to go. And just because if you use your beam and the enemy runs out of it behind the corner, well, yeah, then you can't do any damage. So just make sure you can follow them and make it easier to hit them. So that's just why I like to increase my movement speed by casting Inferno Cannon. Then gain a little bit of shield after dropping to or below 50% of your maximum HP. A little bit of heal by using your movement ability, so by using your Frost Fire Glide, and reduce the cooldown of Elemental Shift by 1 second, just to, I don't know, swap around more often or whatever. And I know there are annoying loadouts for Imani. I just played against one where you reduce the cooldown of your frost bomb or whatever it's called, after swapping your element after using your elemental shift. Then you also want to reduce the cooldown of your beam, and then you can just, I don't know, swap around the whole time between your stances, between your forms, and get out of firebomb, root them, deal damage. then after 1 to 2 seconds, swap back to your fire stance, get out your beam, deal a little bit of damage, swap back. So pretty annoying loadouts to play against or whatever, but I don't know. I don't play her that often, so that's why I didn't make a loadout like this. But I know there are some more loadouts you actually can use to be more annoying or just to get the maximum out of this champion, because you can minimize the cooldowns of her abilities, just because her abilities have such a long cooldown in general. So I know there are certain cards where you can play around your abilities and make your abilities work for your cooldown. So if you use this ability, it reduces the cooldown of the other ability and stuff like that. But I don't really like playing Imani, so that's why I don't make so many loadouts. And if I would play Imani, just because I'm probably pretty bad at Imani, this is the safest legendary for me, just a little bit HP, heal, whatever. And yeah, but I know there are better Imanis or better Imani loaders, so yeah, that's just, I don't know. I just don't like Imani, playing Imani, so that's why I only have a general loader to, I don't know, just play her from time to time and stuff like this. So we're actually at 30 minutes, so I will end the video here. Again, if you're only interested in one specific champion, the timestamps are in the description. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a nice day. And just tell me about your loadouts. Tell me about your loads, about your playstates and whatever you think. Or yeah, I don't know. So thank you for watching again, and always remember, don't forget, you guys are awesome.